How's it everyone, Grant here, welcome back to the channel. And this will be an update video on the HTC U12 Plus. I want to answer some common questions that I'm getting in the comment section of some other videos on the U12 Plus. And so most people want to know more about the display, what the quality is like, does it get bright enough? Other people want to know more about these touch sensitive buttons as well as the squeeze feature for EdgeSense 2 and kind of what my experience has been like on that. And other people wanted to know more about battery life and how that's been here. So let's first start with the display. It's a Super LCD 6 Quad HD 1440p display, and I always like HTC's Super LCD displays just because they have rich colors and they look a lot nicer than most other LCD displays out there, and this is no exception. I do like the colors on the U12 Plus, and indoors, right now I have it at 50% for the camera, but indoors I'm always running it at 75%, which is probably a little bit brighter than some of the brightest displays out there that I would usually run this at, and outdoors I always have to have it at 100%. And so I'll show you a clip now of it outdoors in direct afternoon sunlight. I posted this to Twitter, but I'll show you it here. And this is pretty much the harshest conditions that you're gonna have outdoors directly into an afternoon light like this, at least for me. And I can still see it. I don't really have a problem with the visibility. I do wish it was a little bit brighter. So I wish it got a little bit brighter than it does, but it's still very visible as you can see here outdoors. And other people wanted to know how it compared to the HTC U11 Plus because that display did not get very bright, admittingly. I have the 11 Plus here, and so this one I always had to run pretty much at 100% almost all the time. And so really these are both at 50% right now. So U12 Plus, U11. And if I go ahead and put it against a white background here, the U12 Plus is definitely brighter and it gets cooler in temperature. Definitely better to look at. And I can go ahead and max out the brightness here. And they're both have auto brightness off. So that's kind of what it looks like here at max brightness. And it might not be coming through on camera, but definitely in person, the U12 Plus definitely gets brighter. I don't have to have it as high a brightness level indoors. So with the U11 Plus, I pretty much had this at almost max indoors all the time. I pretty much was actually running this at 100% brightness all the time, indoors and outdoors. So U12 Plus definitely gets brighter, has a better color temperature to my eyes as well. I don't have to run it at 100% all the time, 50% or 75% indoors, 100% outdoors all the time. So that's kind of my impressions about the display quality and how it compares to the U11 Plus. And then more about the touch capacitive buttons here on the side. So for me, they're a little bit too sensitive. So especially the power button. So with the power button, if I just graze the power button, as you can see here, it'll turn on and turn off. I'm just grazing it. And so I get a lot of false touches with the power button because my finger naturally falls here. And that's a good thing usually, but because of how sensitive the button is, I'm constantly activating the display. So I've learned to kind of always hold and grip my phone a little bit lower. And so that's just a behavior that I've adjusted to. And I'm not activating the display as much. It's just something I had to get used to. I do hope they can make this button a little bit less sensitive though, because I can see a lot of people probably getting frustrated with that. Volume buttons aren't as sensitive, but what I do notice is sometimes my volume is at max volume for whatever reason. I always have my phone at silent, so I don't have the phone volume on at all. I have vibration off, so it's usually dead silent. I've been in an office meeting where the notification started going off for some reason. I couldn't believe it. I pulled out my phone and had to mute it. I usually never have to do that with any other phone. I don't know how it got to max volume because I never have the volume on. But what I do notice is sometimes when I hold it towards the bottom and I kind of accidentally squeeze it a little bit, you can see it's activating the volume. So sometimes when I touch it at the top or the bottom through some kind of a squeeze, accidental squeeze or something, you can see the volume sometimes activates. So I'm guessing that's how I'm getting some of these phantom volume touches. And so like you saw, I really have to try a little bit harder to activate the volume accidentally. So it doesn't happen nearly as often as the power button, but it does happen from time to time. And so that's just something to be aware of. And lastly, as far as kind of the EdgeSense feature, so the double tap, I have it set to take a screenshot and I'm getting a lot of accidental screenshots because of it. So it's very nice and convenient. I like having it there, but sometimes I do activate it inadvertently quite a bit. So I wish that was a little bit less sensitive as well. And then lastly, the squeeze features. The squeeze is also pretty sensitive. I have it usually at the max sensitivity just because of how easy it is to squeeze, but I have it on a little bit lesser setting just because I'm using a case right now with it, and I had to bring down the sensitivity to use it with a case. So you can see I'm just kind of holding it, and occasionally you'll kind of see the indicators for the squeeze activate. So it senses a little bit of a squeeze, and I'm barely gripping the phone. And so that's why I usually have to have it at the max sensitivity. And so I'm not really getting too many false squeezes, but it can happen from time to time. But it works well. So long squeeze I have on the assistant and short squeeze I have on the camera. And I like how you can long press to flip the camera around. So that's always good. Long squeeze to flip it around again, and then squeeze to take a photo. So squeeze, and we'll snap a photo. So squeeze features work. So like I said, I do get some false squeezes from time to time, some false double taps, and sometimes the volume kind of cranks up all the way without me knowing for some reason. But all that happens few and far between. The most sensitive thing about these Edge Sense features and the touch sensitive buttons is the power. So that's the one thing, again, if I just graze it, it'll activate it. And so that's the one thing where if I have to adjust my behavior, I now kind of make sure that I hold my phone a little bit farther down. And so I've had less problems. I've had even less problems by adding a case. So I've got kind of this 2D Emerge case here, and it covers up the whole size and of the phone there. So it takes more of a forced touch of the button and more of a forced squeeze to activate all those features. And so with using a case like this, I'm getting a lot less phantom touches, or unintentional touches, I should say. So that's been my experience with the touch capacitive button and the Edge Sense features. I do hope they can make the power button a little bit less sensitive, as well as the Edge Sense features a little bit less sensitive as well. But other than the sensitivity, they actually have been working well for me. I've been able to adjust my behavior to get them to work for me. So I haven't had as much of a problem lately. And of course, like I said, adding that case has definitely helped everyday use. And so lastly, people want to know mostly about what battery life has been like. So I've been using this for just over 2 weeks now. And in the beginning, I was using my camera a lot, and so I wasn't getting through a whole day at all. But since I've kind of settled into more normal usage, it does get me through a whole day. I'll throw up all these screenshots onto the screen so you can see them more closely. But battery life has pretty much settled into about 4.5 hours of screen on time every day. So it's been pretty consistent with that. It'll last me a whole day easily just because the standby is good. So screen on time is not going to be the best, or crazy screen on time like you get with some phones. 7-8 hours of screen on time. I'm not getting that with this phone, but it's pretty respectable. I'll get like I said, 4.5 hours, and it lasts me the whole day because of the good standby time. So when I'm not using the phone, it really sips on the battery and it's not draining a lot. And so when I do use it, I've got enough battery to use. And so that's my common usage because I work 5 days a week. I'm not always on my phone during the day for those 5 days. And so I'll use my phone more heavily when I get home. But during the day, I'm not using it intensely. So I rely on that standby time. And so for me, usually 5.5 hours is good to get me through a whole day. And so this definitely does. So as far as usage, so I can use it enough and it'll get me through my whole day and my whole night. And I don't have a problem, just because I can see here when it is on standby, it pretty much flatlines. But again, you're not going to get the most usage. So if you're always on your phone all day, every day, you're not going to get the most usage. It won't get you through your whole day. But if you're more normal usage pattern and you check your phone sporadically through the day, because of that standby, you should get all day battery life, no problem, just like me. So again, it just depends on your usage. So like you see, maybe upwards of 5 hours sometimes. So that's on the Quad HD setting. I usually get about 4.5 hours. I'll get an extra half an hour to 45 minutes if I put it into 1080p or full HD setting. And so that's pretty much what I got here. This is on full HD 1080p, and I got almost 5 hours when I normally would have gotten maybe 4 hours and 15 minutes. So again, like I said, screen on time is consistently at about 4.5 hours in Quad HD setting. I'll get an extra half an hour to 45 more minutes if I put it into full HD resolution 1080p. And it gets me through the whole day because of that great standby. So like I said, if you're a heavy user, you're always on your phone, this is definitely not going to last you all day. But if you're a moderate user, a more sporadic and probably more typical user of your smartphone, and you just check it every now and then during the day, it'll definitely last you all day, all night, and you'll be just fine. And outside of those things, I think performance has been really great. It's really fast, and this thing really flies. And it's not just because of the animations, because HTC animations have always been kind of quick and abrupt. This is a little bit smoother. Still fairly quick animations, but just using it and moving around the phone, this thing is just really fast, really fluid. You don't really even get much of a stutter here in Twitter, like other phones will choke because of all that media there. So this thing just absolutely flies. So performance has been really great on this thing. The cameras have been really nice. I've done a couple camera comparison videos, so you can go check that out if you want. But the camera performance is pretty good, which is what I would expect from HTC since the U11 and the U11 Plus cameras are pretty good. I think they're not the best in any one thing, I don't think. I think for still photos, they're very good. They have a more natural color tone to it. So if you like that, I think you're gonna like them. But I think as an overall set of phones for everything from still photos to video, audio, in all kinds of lighting conditions, good light, low light, it performs really well in all those categories where other phones have major gaps. So things like the Pixel, where the audio can be a little bit off, the video is not as great, but the still photos are phenomenal. Or even Samsung, video is pretty good, still photos, are pretty good, but I still think the U12 Plus is maybe a little bit better. So I think as an overall set of cameras, the U12 Plus is probably one of the best phones, if not the best phone out right now for me, as far as a set of overall cameras. I think if you want the best in still photos, it's still, to me, the Pixel 2, Pixel 2 XL. If you want the best video quality as far as looks, I think S9 Plus quality from the rear camera looks really good. I think the front camera on the U12 Plus is probably amongst the best. So, like I said, it's probably not the best in any one single category, but it's close to the top in all the categories. And so as an all-around set of cameras, I think the U12 Plus has been performing really well. And if you only had one device to use as your cameras, I would probably pick this one, just because it's near the top in pretty much every category, at least to me so far. So that's kind of my quick impressions after about a little over 2 weeks of using the phone. So if you have any other questions or comments, I hope that kind of answered at least the most common questions there. But of course, if you have any other questions or comments about the U12 Plus, leave them in the comments down below, and I'm more than happy to answer what I can. And as always, everyone, thanks very much for watching.